Kick-Ass Witch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you are watching another episode of Every Which Way, featuring my friend KellyAnn, aka the Four Queens, and this time we get to talk all about the tarot, or the tarot, however you want to pronounce that. I say tarot. I am a huge fan of the tarot. Some of you might know that about me because I know a lot of you found me through Major Arcana TV. However, I am not an expert. I'm not a professional reader, and I am not a teacher of the tarot. It's just something that I'm extremely enthusiastic about. So when KellyAnn came onto the scene, I was all lit up because not only can this woman talk, she also has a lot of really fresh ideas about the tarot and how it applies to personal development and psychology. She is a fascinating, kick-ass woman, so I have to warn you a little bit ahead of time. I got a little gushy and carried away with this interview because I really, truly adore this woman. I think she's awesome, and I hope you will too. Here she is, the Four Queens. Hi KellyAnn, welcome to Every Which Way.
Hello Joanna, nice to be on here.
Yeah, it's nice to get to talk to you face to face. I've only recently started watching your videos, but I was immediately hooked. I was like, who is this woman? You have a way with words for sure. What prompted you to start your YouTube channel where you share all this awesome tarot wisdom with us all for free?
Well, I just love talking about it, and I decided when I got really heavily, passionately into it that I would join some forums. Like Eclectic Tarot is a really good, really active one with loads of people on it with all different varied experience levels, and talking to them and just getting more and more into it, that led me to YouTube and led me on to like the witchy community, as we call it. And I felt after a while that I was like lurking because I was watching all these videos and I was completely fascinated by everybody, but I wasn't saying anything back, and after a while I felt like a bit of a stalker. So I thought that alongside the blog that I started, the videos would be another good way to just say hello, this is me, and get a bit more interaction. So yeah, I'm really glad I did it. Absolutely love it.
You're a professional reader, so I'm sure people seem to like you right away. I not only watch your videos, I read the comments, and I think you're a hit, woman. I think people just really respond to you because what you're doing is very special, both on your blog and in the videos, and that's why I wanted to interview you, because you take, I can't say it's completely unique because it's a bit of a trend right now, people putting a psychological spin on the tarot and using it for personal development, but you're the only person I've ever come across in a book or otherwise that does it so eloquently and in such depth. Why do you do this? Why did you start reading tarot? Let's start there to begin with, and how long ago?
You know what? I was given a deck of cards. I was aware of that kind of thing anyway, because my mum is really like liberal and new age and has loads of hippie friends that are into all kinds of stuff, and she used to take us to folk festivals when we were younger, so I encountered like divination methods. But when I was like 13, I think it was, one of my mum's best friends gave me a deck that she was just going to be throwing away because she'd had it for years and never really touched it, and that was the Marseille deck, which is actually like not very pictorial and it's very difficult to read. It's from way back when, and it doesn't have many suggestions of what the cards mean, but I just loved shuffling it and imagining I could read it and pretending I could read it. And then after about a year after that, when I was 14, just about to turn 15, my auntie Sharon gave me the Mythic Tarot for my birthday. And that was where it got started, because that taps into and utilises Greek mythology and mythopoetic content, so it's much easier to learn. And from there, I was like completely hooked, totally hooked.
You have an amazing family of kick-ass women. I would have loved that.
Yeah,
or my kind of girl. Like, I love those like hippie, intellectual, inquisitive, new agey kind of women.
Yeah, I'm super lucky like that. Really lucky.
So did you practice on your family when you first got your deck?
Yeah, my mum was my first guinea pig, and she's been like with me through it all basically. Like when I first started reading for her, I was so unsure of my footing. I could not memorise the cards properly. In fact, the first few readings that I did for her, I didn't do it like a reading. I got her to draw the cards, And then I told her to go off and make the dinner while I wrote down her reading from the definitions in the book, and then she'd read it later and be like, oh, this is lovely, like knowing that I'd just taken it from the book and slightly rewritten it. So yeah, like I literally got started just doing hers, and she like now she loves it. She gets these like sprawling epic 1 hour readings from my head, but back then it was just like guidebook, not sure what's going on here. So yeah, that's how I started out, like really, really timid and just writing it down kind of thing.
You know what, though? You are such a writer. In some ways, like, that hasn't changed because two things. One, your blog is just like so in-depth about whatever topic you're talking about. But then I went and I read the reviews on your Etsy shop of the tarot readings that you sell, and that's basically a theme over there too. Like the people that you've read for are like, oh my gosh, so much information, so in depth, so wonderful. And I know these are written reviews that you're doing for people. Yes?
Yeah. These are written readings. They're really, really long.
I love that. I love the style of your shop, the way you've named each. I wrote a couple down that I like. You have the Russian Gypsy Life map reading, a Feng Shui soul reading, the Road Ahead tarot reading. They all have these really cool themes. And you also sell something called the Tarot Study Group, where people, they can ask you a question. Is that how it works? And then you give them like an essay?
This is completely void now. That's one of the first things I started selling on the shop. But that was before that was a long time before the channel. That was like a year ago. In fact, I was saying to my mate the other day, that can go now, because now people have a chance to just ask me in the comments, and they have been. Like, as soon as I started the channel, I realised that it's such an easier way for people to just get to me than before, where it was like, I do the shop, that's all I do. So if you want to ask me some questions and I can write you some answers, then we'll do it like that. But now it's just like, people just write in the comments, can you do one about tarot reversals? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do one about that. Like, it's a much nicer way of doing it. So yeah, definitely the study group is a bit void. It's been used and it's been good. Like when people have a series of questions and they just want an essay, then I can write down the answers in an essay. But now it's so much more personable. Like people just message me and ask me questions. And I didn't even realise that would happen, but people are messaging me saying, can you talk about this card? And I'm like, oh, I'll put that on the list. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I think you've got a book.
Teach tarot in the end. That's what I'd love to do. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you've got a book in you for sure. I'm sure that's next. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I can feel it.
I'm writing a novel, but it has nothing to do with the tarot. It's actually just a post-structuralist, crazy, acid-induced burrows type novel about a post-apocalyptic universe. So it's like totally different to anything I do on the channel. But yeah, I do have a tarot book in me, definitely.
Do you have a formal education? You are such a smart person and so like linguistically gifted. I'm a smart person. I will happily say that, but you take the cake, woman. Just the stuff that comes out of your mouth, I'm like, what is her background educationally? Where do you get
I have no formal education. I got into a very prestigious English university, and I didn't go. I got my acceptance, and then I just went off to Russia, did a bit of travelling around there, had a mental breakdown, recovered from that. I had a crazy little life. I didn't want to go to a university. I thought it would change me. I've noticed I know a few people that went to like Oxford and Cambridge now, and I think that they were the kind of people that could do that kind of thing. But for me, it would have restricted me, it would have felt regimented, it would have changed me as a person. I think I would have become a way that I didn't want to be. I'm too free-flowing for formal education, and I don't really like academia, and I don't like structure. So all the reading I have done, I just did on my own time, yeah. I've got no degree or anything like that. I have some courses under my belt in various aspects of counselling and healthcare and stuff that I've been interested in, that I've wanted a diploma in, but I don't think I'll ever get a degree. I don't have the discipline for it. Too scattered.
Well, you just seem to have the chops anyway, and you tie that in so much to your take on tarot. Can you talk a little bit about how you combine personal development and psychology with the use of tarot as opposed to divination?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I think it's got a much longer history than people give it credit for. Like if you look at the humble beginnings of transpersonal psychology, which is obviously like psychology that transcends the personal, so transcends the ego and tries to tap us into the idea that we're all connected and that it's like a big web of interwoven things. I think tarot lends itself perfectly to that, and Reiki, and anything we're doing in the witchy community, as we call it on YouTube. They're all transpersonal techniques. And like, there's a book called Tarot and Psychology: Spectrums of Possibility by Arthur Rosengarten. And if anybody wanted to make the leap from using tarot for fortune telling to using tarot for self-development, they should read that book, because he's a psychotherapist, he's a Jungian analyst, and he talks about how he made that journey to bring tarot into his sessions with clients, and it's amazing, and it explains hands down the kind of thing that I'm trying to do, that I'm trying to utilize it as a tool for self-exploration. And like, I've said this in a lot of videos, so it's probably going to sound really old now, but the reason that tarot works so well for helping people is that it is it's like a total illustration for the whole of human experience. So people always say, like, I went to this psychic tarot reader and it was amazing. She got everything right. She knew me. She knew that I was an extrovert, but I was conflicted about this. And she knew about me and my boyfriend. And I was like, okay, hang on a second. I'm not saying that being psychic does or does not exist at all. I think it's a big old spectrum and there's all kinds of things on it. But tarot will do that job for you. You don't need to be psychic to get it right, because every single card pertains to something that you are either going through now, have been through before, or will go through in the future. It's the whole of human experience, so it's really easy to give a good reading with tarot because it does all the work for you. So I don't know how that goes around to the self-development thing, but yeah, it helps because like it empathizes with you almost. The tool itself empathizes with you. It's just an illustration of your life anyway, and it's about how you interpret that. So I think it's much better than using it for fortune telling, although there are aspects of that as well. Like, I am an intuitive reader, so if certain cards pertain to someone's personality, I will say the cards dictate that perhaps you are like this or perhaps you are like this. But then it will always lead on to, these are your choices. It will never say, this is what you should do or you're going to die horribly. Never, never, never. That's not what it's about. That won't help a querent at all.
Okay. That just totally reminded me of something from my past. I've been reading tarot just for myself for about 4.5 years now. When I first started, well, maybe just within the first 6 months, I pulled up the Tower. And I didn't really like that, so I kept like shuffling and I kept getting it. And then literally within 24 hours, the worst thing that has ever happened to me in my life, and I don't say that lightly, it was highly traumatizing, happened. And now I'm like terrified of that card. I hate when it comes up. I've read all the explanations. I know it doesn't necessarily mean that the rug of life is going to be pulled out from underneath you, but it totally like had an impact on me. Can you talk a little bit about the Tower specifically and your take on the Tower? Maybe that will like shift something in my brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I did 2 videos on my channel about negative cards or perceived negative cards, and the Tower was obviously one. The Tower was obviously one, because it does look so destructive and violent and scary, and there's loads of fire in it, and there's people like falling to their deaths everywhere. Yes. So it doesn't look nice. But what I always say about the Tower and how to approach it positively is, if you look at what's going on beneath the burning tower, there's some very strong foundations. There's a really nice, great big strong cliff, the kind of cliff that looks like it's going to survive the end of the world. So I think the Tower speaks to us deeply of what we've got when everything else turns to shit. What is our strong foundation? What's our core? What's the keystone of us? Like, who are the people that mean everything to us? What are the things that define us as people? The things that we're not going to lose? Like, when all our money gets sucked out the bank and all our dreams seem to have gone south, or like the worst possible thing has happened to us, what have we got that will keep us warm at night? Like that feeling of who we are as an individual. And I think that's the whole point with the Tower, is we miss out what the Tower's built on. And also about the cleansing feeling of losing everything as well, like once you've lost everything you're free to do anything, that kind of feeling. I think that's what it taps into too. So, but it is really, really hard to take the Tower in a positive way, but there are ways of doing it. Like it's all about how you learn a lesson from what you've lost and what you've still got after you've lost everything, that thing that keeps you strong kind of thing.
I've never heard that, which is, again, an illustration of why you're so kick-ass. I've never heard that, like, that solid cliff and what you've got after you've lost everything, which is totally true to the situation. So you did just shift something in my brain. I love that.
Excellent. It's all about paradigms and shifting those paradigms.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Okay, then while we're doing that, let's talk about death, because that is your most recent blog post. It was something about surfing with death, or...
Yeah.
You used a surfing analogy.
I did, and you know what? I don't surf. I learned to snowboard when I was younger, but I don't surf at all. I live like smack bang in the middle of England. There's no sea around. So, but I used it because surfing is scary, and learning to surf is scary. And you start with humble beginnings, and you actually start on the beach. I've seen people do it when I lived down in Cornwall. They start on the beach, on the surfboard, pretending they're on the water. They don't even begin in the water. The first 3 lessons are on the sand. So you start really, really slowly. But then eventually, like, you can work yourself up to catching a wave in Hawaii, which is like unbelievable considering where you start out from. And that, I think, is how people need to address the death card and the theme that it taps into, which is change, like all-consuming, overwhelming, life-turning change. Mm-hmm. You need to accept that slowly. Like, you need to let go of your rigid ideals and your rigid belief systems and, like, shake things up a little bit. And that, for me, can start on the sand. You know, you're not going to catch a great big wave straight away. You need to start slowly, like, if you're micromanaging, like I am. And I am. When I was younger, I used to think I was this, like, free-living, hippie, like, liberal as hell. We can do anything today. I'm really spontaneous. And then one day, my boyfriend just said to me, you know what? When something doesn't go your way, you lose your mind. You are a micromanager. You don't realise it. You think you put a bit of tie-dye on and you're, like, you know, free-living and wild. But no, like, you are the least easy rider girl I've ever met. You are, like, a micromanager. And I realised I was, and that's when the death card became so important to me, because you need to just start letting go of your little structures and little beliefs that hold you back first, and then by the end, whenever you see the death card, you'll think, bring it on, let's have it, let's have the new thing, let's lose something to gain something. And that's the kick-ass part of the death card, but you gotta see through it to get that, I think, because it's such a scary card.
There's nothing like your life partner or your boyfriend to really, like, show you your shadow too.
Oh yeah.
I know, they're like the perfect mirrors. And you were talking about shadow work before I like commented on your shadow video, which is excellent. I highly recommend people go look it up at youtube.com/the4queens. And I was commenting like, damn, you beat me to it, because it's such the time of year, you know, for talking about the shadow. Yeah. How does shadow work tie in with tarot, or does it?
It does, actually. It didn't for a long time for me, because I couldn't see how I could fuse the two things together. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to sit down and write a course about how to do it. And that, like, literally the course comes in 2 parts, and each part is about 5,000 words long. Well, I didn't really expect that. It went on for a long time. I looked into different things that Jung wrote about, not only pertaining to the shadow, but other stuff as well, like the 4 main archetypes that exist within us, and then the little branches that spread off of that. And I tried to see how that could tie in with shadow work and tarot. So yeah, it does work. I need to explain this, like, not too scientifically, because obviously, like, it exists mainly in my head. But basically, when you're thinking about the shadow, you can get comfortable thinking about it to a certain extent, but you don't push yourself to consider more. Like the shadow, as you probably know from doing shadow work, there's many, many, many layers. Like, and a lot of the time, you satisfy and flatter and placate your ego by saying, yeah, I've done a bit of shadow work. I accept that I'm lazy. I accept that I spend money too easily. But you can go so much deeper if you want to. And I like to think that tarot is like the shovel that helps you get that layer under. Because when you turn a tarot card over and it asks you to think about something, it might just be something that your ego is very uncomfortable with, that you would not have travelled to on your own. You wouldn't have gotten to that place without that card coming up. Like, if you have an understanding of tarot, then you can do it for yourself. So say if the devil comes up, you'll know that that's about your temptations and your ability to manipulate or to avoid or to become addicted or whatever. And if you don't know, if you can't read tarot cards, get someone to do it for you, you know. But either way, it pushes the buttons of your ego, you know. A lot of people, me included, when we first start doing shadow work, it actually strokes the ego much more than it terrifies it, because we're like, yeah, we're doing shadow work, you know, so kick-ass, like,
I'm so deep.
Yeah, but like shadow work is really about sitting in a room, like journaling 1 minute and the next minute just weeping, breaking down and going, oh my god, that is me. Like that is actually, if you haven't got to that snotty part of shadow work yet, where you're like, meh, like you need tissues and like death. If you haven't got to that part yet, then try and throw tarot into it, because tarot will like catch you off guard and make you go, ooh, I don't really want to address that, but I have to because it's come up, kind of thing. That's the main way in which I think it works, definitely.
Nice. Can you define ego? According to KellyAnn, what is the ego?
The ego is a really harmless thing that gets a really bad reputation. The ego is literally just the way we see ourselves. That's it. It's the way we would sum ourselves up if we were filling in an application form and it said describe yourself in a paragraph or whatever. That's the ego. It's the way we see and commonly accept ourselves. And it does include some bad things. It's not just a perfectly flawless image. There are some flaws we accept. We accept certain flaws and certain attributes, but that's where we're comfortable with, and that's where we're going to stay. And the persona is like the face mask that we put over the ego. So we know the persona is actually invented. We know that the persona is our public face, or like the face we give to our mother-in-law, or the face we put on YouTube. That's our public face. It's not a lie, but it's a public guise. Then the ego sits behind that, and that's the thing that we think we know about ourselves, that maybe we don't show it to everyone, but we know it about ourselves. But what a lot of people don't realise is when they get stuck with their ego, they ignore the great big ocean behind, which is the subconscious, you know. So the ego is not a bad thing, and I think like statements like, oh, you're egocentric, or he's on an ego trip, or he's just obsessed with his ego, that makes ego sound so horrible and so vile. But actually, ego is just literally how you would describe yourself on a piece of paper, like honestly, what you think you are, kind of thing. And then the whole point of breaking ego down is that that's not all you are. And that's the part that needs to be accepted, is that your idea of yourself is not the whole animal, kind of thing.
So is that the point then, to diving into the ocean of the subconscious?
Yeah, definitely, of course, you know, like I really believe in the value of ego death, as it were, and people get to this in different ways. Some people get to it through trance work or psychedelic spirituality. Some people get to it through like dance, or going into their artistic mind, or like however they get into it, sex, even food. You can get ego death from those things. It becomes about being transpersonal. You tap into something, like even if you go on a nature walk and you like, I don't know, you pick up a leaf and you hold it up to the sunlight and you see that there's these vast, intricate motorways of veins through it, and it looks like its own little universe. Even that can trigger a slight moment of ego death, where you realise that you're connected to everything and that you're part of everything, and that's what transpersonal psychology encourages, or attempts to encourage. So yeah, I think that there's a lot more to life than the ego, but I think the ego is nice. Like, I don't think it's this evil monster. I just think that it can be appreciated as something that is limiting in a sense, and something that you are free to go on holiday from if you so choose, kind of thing.
Nice. Can I ask you to go a tad further too and talk about maybe how archetypes might play into exploring not just your ego, but all of, you know, the tarot, for example. Like the tarot has so many archetypical messages in it. It's
a very Jungian tool, really, the tarot, and like Jung was fond of it as well. He never read it, he was never proficient in it, but apparently I read that he got some of his students to play around with it and report back their experiences with it. So yeah, he's a really, really big fan of it. And I can see why, because it's absolutely chock full of archetypes, which are like these standard figures that obviously occur in every system of mythology, every civilization. So they're almost like a language. It's a symbolic language that actually occurs through all aeons of time with all different people. So there's obviously a thread there that connects us all together, that we all have a similar idea of what a hero is, of what a wise man is, of what a crone is, what a mother is, you know, like what a trickster is, what a naughty little Loki type character is. All of these characters exist in many times and in many cultures, and that's what makes them archetypes. They're like the classic characters. And tarot has loads of them, like absolutely loads of them. Every card has one in, really. Yeah. So yeah, basically you're looking at the fact, well I am anyway, as with a Jungian perspective, you're looking at the fact that all archetypes do exist within you. and some of them exist more strongly than others, and some of them you connect with more strongly than others, but they're all in there. So if you think about the idea that you may need to tap into your wise man sage archetype because you are too hedonistic, you go to excess too much, you're not bonding with yourself, you're not caring about yourself or your spiritual mindset, so you might need to find the sage within you, kind of thing. And you have to go through quite a labyrinthine journey to find that guy, but he is inside you, kind of thing. So all the archetypes are kind of almost like a cast of characters that are all inside you, but some of them are very, very difficult to work with and get hold of and bond with. So tarot is almost a way to show you, like, hold a mirror up to yourself and show you what it is down there inside you that you can't quite grasp, but maybe you need to try and grasp in order to go further along the journey. So, and archetypes are, like, yeah, the biggest part of tarot, really.
Yeah.
They're just huge, yeah.
I mainly think about the major arcana. To me, like, when I've, read about archetypes and stuff, like, those are always the cards that come to mind. And I'm partial to them. I have a channel called Major Arcana TV, but I'm just...
Yeah.
I mean, I love all of the tarot. I love it. But for some reason, that's the part that I just really, really, really like to obsess on.
Yeah, everybody loves the major arcana, and there are loads and loads of tarot readings that involve cutting all of the minors away and just working with those majors, because the majors really tap into the huge archetypal themes. And a lot of people say that, well, I do personally say actually that if a lot of majors come up in a spread, then it is a particularly significant spread. And when I'm writing readings on my shop, if I notice that there are 4 or more major arcana cards in a spread, I will say this is a particularly significant one for you. This taps into some deep themes. The minors are all really important in their own ways, but they're all like, they're microcosms of the macrocosm, if you will. So they deal more with the everyday and like with specific situations that you might get into, whereas the major arcana deals with the big themes, the big things we all have to address. So yeah, they're beautiful little set of cards in themselves, and they have their own journey as well, obviously. So yeah, I love the fact that your channel's called Major Arcana TV. That made so much sense to me when I saw it. I was like, yes, that is excellent. Brilliant.
It's also, too, in the beginning, people were like, teach us about tarot. But, like I said, I've only been reading a few years and studying like a nerd, because anytime I like something, I don't just read about it. I study it. I take notes, I experiment and stuff. But I still feel like a total beginner. When did you start feeling like you had ownership over this and a working understanding to where you could turn it into a profession, which I'm not, by the way, interested in for myself, but I find it fascinating that that's what you do. It's awesome.
This time last year, literally, and I've been reading the tarot for like 14 years now, but it was literally only this time last year when I started the blog that I allowed myself to call myself a proficient reader. And even when I refer to myself as proficient on my YouTube channel, I feel like a bit of a tosser. Even now, I feel like you can't say that. You've still got so much more to learn. You can't just call yourself a proficient reader. But interestingly, there's a Facebook fan page called Living Tarot, and it's just got like thousands of tarot readers on it. And a while ago, the administrator of that page started a little debate where she said, when do tarot readers get to call themselves professional? Because there's not really any accepted standard per se. I mean, you can be part of a group like Tarot Association of the British Isles or whatever, but there's not really an accepted standard. You can't take a degree in it, so how do you end up calling yourself proficient? And loads of people were on there that had been reading tarot for donkey's years, and they were all like, I don't know if I can really call myself professional or proficient or expert or even I don't know, because I feel like I've still got so much more to go. But I think that's the magic with tarot, is it feels like a never-ending journey, and if you are really, really good at it, the irony is that you will never feel that you're done with it, because you know that it's like an onion. There are endless layers and layers to peel. So that's actually the irony, is that if you are truly good at it, you'll know that you're still a novice, because who isn't? I mean, it's an infinite number of combinations for an infinite number of subjects, so you're always going to feel like you're at the beginning, kind of thing. But yeah, for me, when I started the blog was when I started to tell people, like, I am a pretty good tarot reader. Like, I have been reading it for a long time, and I gave myself that permission, that allowance to say, I'm good at it. I'm not brilliant at it, I'm not amazing at it, but I'm good at it. And it felt really good. But yeah, you always feel a little bit like, weird when you praise yourself for something. Even when you put in over a decade of work, you're still like, no, I don't think I can talk about myself like that. It's mortifying.
Oh, that's a beautiful lesson, though. For anybody wanting to live a kick-ass life, you have to give yourself permission, and you have to feel worthy of whatever you're going to do. And I would say after a decade plus, you've definitely earned it. Yeah. And it's a never-ending mystery. Like, that's what's so fun about it. That's why it stays so engaging, you know?
Exactly, yeah. There comes a time where you have to pat yourself on the back a little bit. If you're not going to do it, then you can't expect anybody else to do it, you know? So after a while, you just have to... It's like I'm reading Hippie Witch at the moment, and I'm watching so many more of your videos as well, and I think it's a little bit like sexy talk in a way. You just tell yourself, like, you did good. Well done you, kind of thing. And that really provides a springboard. Like, if I hadn't have said that to myself, you know, you've done good, you've put in over a decade of work, you understand the cards to the extent where as soon as one comes up, you can start talking about it. You know, and you give readings that help people, that's nice. If I hadn't have done that for myself, I would never have started the channel. I would have just still been, like, cowering and lurking in the dark, watching other people.
Yeah.
So, you need to give yourself a little bit of sexy talk, but definitely.
Yeah, you're great at it, too. I mean, you just riff. And you can tell you're not, like, looking off to the side of the screen, like, reading a canned presentation. You're just so, like, oh, yeah, and this, and this, and this. Ding, 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 ding. I'm like, hold on, let me get my notebook.
Yeah, sometimes I think I talk a little bit too fast, but presumably people do stay with me, so that's good.
Yeah,
just about...
Your new tarot and tea thing is so awesome because I'm such a tea drinker. Are you a straight-up kind of girl, or do you doctor your tea?
What do I put moo juice in it?
Yeah, anything. Lemon, honey.
When I was living in Russia, I've been to Russia like a couple of times, and they don't have milk in their tea. And when I was over there, I was absolutely faithful to that premise. I did not have one cup of tea with milk in. I had it with, like, lemon, and they also have this stuff called vereni, which is like liquid jam that they can pour into the tea and stuff. So I, like, experimented with all of that, absolutely. And sometimes in restaurants, people would say to me, do you want tea? Like, you know, because you're English. And I'd be like, no. When in Moscow, we'll do is the white tea. And then as soon as I got home, I was, like, bastardising every cup with moo juice again. So... I think it's like, depends on where I am, but I still have some tea that I brought back from Russia, and when I drink that, I don't have it with milk. And of course, there's certain infusions, like rosehip and ginger and lemon that you wouldn't, and peppermint, that would just be really weird with milk. But yeah, most of the stuff like standard tea, I have it with milk. Yeah, no sugar though, because I'm sweet enough.
Aww. Well, before I let you go, I have to say... You're awesome, and it's been a total pleasure talking to you. And can you leave my viewers with one tip for working tarot into their life if they're just a brand new beginner? Oh, and someone asked a question of you on Facebook, too. She wants to know, do you have any suggestions for good all-around tarot books for beginners? So really, I guess that's two questions. A good tip for how to begin, and a good book recommendation.
Okay, how to begin, I would say, is don't believe the myth that you have to wait for somebody to buy you a deck, which is like a myth that does the rounds a lot, that your first deck has to be a gift and blah, blah, blah. No, you have to pick a deck that you're going to bond with, that you are going to feel is right for you. And if you go onto the Eclectic Tarot website, look up their list of tarot cards. They have a definitive list of pretty much every tarot deck that is for sale online right now, and if you click on every one of them, there are pictures of at least 4 cards from every one of them, so you can get a feel. And they do them by theme, so they do like pagan, fairy, Japanese, mythology, modern stuff, like pop culture decks, funny decks, Hello Kitty deck, vampire deck. So you can go there, locate immediately what you feel you would tap into most strongly, have a look at it, look at the pictures, and know, yeah, that's the deck I'm going to bond with. Don't wait for someone to buy you one, because they might buy you one that just like means nothing to you. And also with the book, I've actually got one here.
Let's just mention too, that's eclectic with an A. So people don't look up eclectic.
Yeah,
A-E.
Right. That's actually true. Yeah, I'm so used to tapping it into my search bar now. Yeah, it's AEC,
Nice.
Eclectic Tarot.
Nice.
Yeah, they just got a great big list, and I think if you're going to start and you like are literally starting at the baseline, then select a deck that you can bond with, that you can tap into. Like if you are a proper green witch, fairy, hippie loving chick that likes to wear daisies in her hair, then you get a fairy deck. Do you know what I mean? Don't just get the Rider Waite because it's what you see everybody use. Like get a deck that you're going to feel really strongly for. And with regard to the beginner's book, Tarot 101 by Tim Huggins is a really, really good book. Like, it's a really nice course, it's very comfortable, she's very young, she's very kick-ass, she talks to you in a language you can understand, and she goes through all of the definitions of the cards. She does it in a way that will be easy to pick up. She does great spread ideas, great ways of working with the cards for your own, for self-development, how to give readings to others. And on top of that, she also integrates, you know Aleister Crowley's deck, the Thoth deck?
Yes.
It's different, isn't it, to the
yes.
other stuff? Like
yeah.
some of the names are different, and he's shaking things up, and the meanings are different. She actually integrates that with this. So every time there's a card that the Thoth deck approaches differently or has a different name, she'll put a little slash and then put, in this deck, it's not called this, it's called art or lust or whatever, and she does a little segment for that. So she actually acknowledges how popular that deck is. I mean, it doesn't do anything for me, but a lot of people will pick that up. So she's actually even got that in there. She's thought about everything. She's a little bit of a genius. I'm a bit jealous.
I don't think you have any reason to be jealous. I'm sure we'll all be running out to buy your book one day whenever that happens. You know, Angel Paths was a website that I used in the very beginning, and she uses the Thoth deck. And so at first I was like, wait a minute, what is it? Like, I started noticing the cards weren't called the same things in every deck, but it was good. It was a good learning process, and it's a great website too. So Angel Paths.
Yeah. I'm going to check that out like immediately as soon as we wrap this thing. I'm quite excited.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, KellyAnn. And your blog is the fourqueens.blogspot.com, right?
Yeah.
And people can find you by that on your YouTube, and then also your Etsy store. What is the name of that?
That's the Four Queens as well.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, people, go get your tarot reading from KellyAnn. Much love.
Oh,
Peace.
Thank you. Bye.